More medications, less health. Something's broken. Traditional medicine manages symptoms, but true healing addresses root cause. I'm Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. At Beyond the Pills, we merge ancient wisdom with modern-day science to inspire you through stories of transformation, practical trainings, and holistic healing. Join me and other practitioners as we guide you towards vibrant health, body, mind, and spirit, and move beyond symptom management into true healing. Hello. Welcome back to this episode of Beyond the Pills. And I'm the host, Josh Rimini, pharmacist turned healer. And guess what? Today we're diving into a conversation that sits right at the intersection of the things I love, of ancient wisdom, modern psychology, and leadership evolution. Our guest today, Kyle Emanuel Brown, a good friend, a brother of mine, is a high-performance coach, author, and spiritual guide who works with high-achieving entrepreneurs and visionaries to help them drop the pressure, dissolve old patterns of fear, and lead from deep self-trust. Kyle blends modern psychology with timeless spiritual practices and principles to awaken clarity, energy, and purpose in the people that he serves. His upcoming book is launching. We're going to talk about it today. Total Self-Trust. Dropping, yes, on 1/11/26. I know there's some meaning behind that date, and we're going to talk about that as well. It is already creating a wave around the simple but powerful truth, which is high achievers aren't struggling because they're weak. They're struggling because they've been taught to outrun their fear instead of listen to their truth. In a world obsessed with performance, hustle, and external metrics of success, my friend Kyle is here to remind us that the most powerful leadership begins with the nervous system, with alignment, and with trusting ourselves fully. Kyle, brother, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me and excited to drop some wisdom bombs for your beautiful audience.
Dude, we have all the most common things together. Like, I read your bio and it's like, my brother from another mother. Like, we talk the same, but different, right?
Dude, I think we need to do a DNA test because I think both of us must have been adopted from a different planet.
or we come from the descendants of the Palladian whatevers and yes, and the soul pod that we've created. I don't know.
Absolutely.
We connected through that serendipity.
We did. And the alignment is beautiful. And, two people here who are here to help leave this world a better place than when we got here. And that to me is the ultimate sign of success.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in, man. So much to just connect with. And let's start with like your journey, right? Your journey of where you came from, because everyone's got an origin story and why they do what they do when they're in the healing world. And it's generally because they've had their own healing done for them and called to do this. But like, let's talk about your defining aha moment, the places where you realized the hustle. You came from a pretty defining career. You were doing stuff with ESPN and yada, yada, right? You can talk about that, but I wanted to get to the juicy stuff, which is literally like, when did I have my full circle moment?
Yes. It's interesting you use the words full circle because it was a full circle moment. I've basically gone back to the 6-year-old version of Kyle. So the 6-year-old version of Kyle was lifting weights in the basement, listening to Tony Robbins on tape, getting into health and fitness and that sort of lifestyle. But I also was what could be considered maximal woo-woo. So my dad's 2 sisters are really spiritually tapped in. One is a Hawaiian shaman, Reiki master, NLP, all the things that have become popular now since the 60s. And the other was a medium. And so I don't know why, but I listened to this little voice in my head that said I needed to earn my self-worth and prove everybody wrong by building this fitness empire. And so I went in and I started as a trainer, and everyone was like, why are you doing that? This is 2001, this post college after about a year of corporate America. Why are you doing that? And for how long you can do that until you get a real job? I'm like, real job? I'm like, I'm following my passions. I'm going to build a fitness empire. So I ended up training celebs and pro athletes and rock stars and rap stars and that whole world. And then, ended up creating a meal replacement shake we had for 17 years, sold it in Whole Foods, ran the show for a few years on ESPN called the Empower Hour, and had built this external image that was all based on fitness and wellness. And physically, I was the epitome of health, both aesthetically, and also I went through the full body process through Human Longevity Institute and got world-class athlete-like results. This is November of 2018. And January 2nd of 19, I'm sitting here and I get sick for the first time in years. And it was like just a cold or something in my head. I'm like, I'm fine. Mind over matter. I've done Mental Toughness University. I'm good. So I pushed through it. I'm out hiking with one of my clients. I got a lot of Western med docs in my family and friend Rolodex. So I'm FaceTiming with a couple of them. I'm like, I'm not shaking this. I don't know what's going on. And finally, we get to January 11th, and my uncle's like, you should go get a chest x-ray. I go over to a place to get one. They start screaming and yelling at me and my wife saying, get him to the ER immediately. Why are you even here? And so we head over to the ER. They do the chest x-ray. I'm trying to be like my dad, crack little one-liner jokes with the nurse. She looks at me. She grabs the phone and she calls code sepsis over the loudspeaker. After looking at my x-ray, I'm like, who's that for? And she goes, you. I go, what? Whoa. She's like, yeah, your organs are shutting down. You're near death. Totally straight-faced. She had no sense of humor in a moment. It was a protocol ER emergency for her. And at that moment, I think the shell cracked for the first time in a long time. And I had to surrender as this guy who only organics, wouldn't touch an antibiotic or any of this kind of stuff because it's going to kill the good microflora in your gut. I had to get ingested and IV'd through every possible thing they could to try to save me. They're even on the phone with my buddy who is an ER doc out in Vegas, who I've been talking to, and I'm watching the ER doc on the phone with him, and I just let go and surrendered. And they were like, this one's not working. This one's not working. And I ended up having a similar type of situation to the most extreme cases you saw in COVID when people are on breathing machines. But it was a year before COVID. And it was January 11th, 2019. So yes, there is significance on that. And the funny thing is, I didn't even realize it when I picked that day. I looked back, I was like, wait, January 11th.
You didn't, but something did, right? There's some underbelling influence in there with your subconscious and the universe, we probably think. You can't tell, but yes.
It was divine timing, unquestionably.
I love that. Man.
Yeah. So the short version is, in that moment, I got a really clear message. For me, everything was all about the physical, but I got a very clear message about being off path. And it didn't happen overnight. It started with the shutting down of all masculine energy. It was just gone. And I went into very wounded and divine feminine energy. So no clarity, no motivation, couldn't work out. All these things that were defining me were gone. I was begging for clarity. I was missing all these work deadlines, getting things done once I got out of there. But spiritually, it was like a rocket ship right back to an elevated version of the childhood version of me, and switched the business from Strive for Fitness to Rapid Harmony. And for me, it was all not a school thing. It was an embodiment experience.
I love these stories because everyone we hang out with in these circles and these soul pods like that are connected. Men, especially, you and I love working with high powered, high impact, heart driven men, right? Because we've done our own work. This is what we love, but it's like that. And there's the shamanic, like wounded healer's journey in there where you had to face your death and facing that death and coming out, like not just the physical part of it, but that's generally where people go, oh, it's the outside, and then whoop, went straight into the internal world and like went to that higher purpose, that second mountain. And what a good shift. Like, how cool is that?
It's incredible. And yes, I'm sitting here smiling, happy. Most of my days spent in a bliss consciousness now. Love it. And boy, oh boy, like we think the physical is the hardest part. And I know you know this, man. No way. The physical is not the hardest part of the journey. It's the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, unquestionably.
Well, that's what I wanted to, you beat me to it. Of course we're aligned. Is this, it's like kind of the dark night of the soul. It's this awakening moment. And when people move up against it and through it, it's the only way. We know this, but you're speaking of it now in such a good tone. But my question was to you was, it wasn't that easy when you were going through it, was it? No, it's not. It's freaking hard, like really hard, but it's kind of like when you have kids. They're the hardest thing you'll ever do, and it's the most rewarding.
Amen. And I'll tell you, you've got a pharmacy background. What's the best medicine? Laughter. and I'm taking as many doses of that as I possibly can now. But boy, are there moments, the lowest possible vibration on Hawkins' scale is shame. And the process of shame is elimination, which leads to, people taking their own lives, you name it. And for me to have the capacity, I've been coaching 25 years, and to have the capacity to handle such extreme things for people in big life transitions, I'm an experiential learner, and I had to sit in the energies of guilt and shame for extended periods of time, and not alone in a cave, meditating, running away from things, straight on. We're talking with family, with parents, with all those you look up to, admire, who look up to you, and to sit in those energies. No, I like to say nobody writes their autobiography in the midst of a shitstorm, and I was not writing books during those moments. I needed to sit in that and really.
But the book was being written. That's the thing. The story was being written in the moment because you moved through it. Like we can never talk about these things like in real time in the way you're talking now, because it's deep shit. Like you're going through it. And that's why you're such a powerful healer and learner and leader for good, awesome, amazing people and men, because you're not just the experiential learner, you're the person who experienced and now is being called to impart that wisdom towards others and their journeys. Because the journeys aren't the same, but the formula and going through it. This is why I love working with cancer patients, because I went through it at 16. And they're automatically attracted to me now in these new ways outside of pharmacy, like in the healing world. You and I are very in tune to the medicine wheel and the shamanic healings and things, and going through our own journey is what the shamans do. It's not something that they go to school for. It's it's like the life learning. They're apprenticing them through their own life. And so I love that how cool is it how we've done this, like to ourselves in the way that it happened, like for us.
Oh.
And you do the cool shit that I love to do, is you're putting all the modern day shit into the ancient.
Yes.
So tell me how you worked. How did you get to the place? I just say modern day. I say ancient wisdom meets modern day science. So the way I look at it is the modern day medicine man, because it feels good for me to be the pharmacist and the healer. But this shamanic space, the ancient spiritual wisdom blended with modern day psychology, is very unique. And I want to talk, where did that blend come from? Like, what was your early influencers or awakeners in there?
Oh man, I was really actually sitting and contemplating this yesterday of all days. I was sitting down in the morning and I'm remembering the high school version of me who loved sitting there with my buddy Luis and talking philosophy and talking psychology. It's my favorite class in school. My favorite professors were the biology professor. And of course, I wrote a book called How Much Does a Zebra Weigh? Because I loved symbiosis and synergy in ecosystems. And then psychology I loved. And I was sitting down thinking about this exact question. And for me, what I realized was my hometown is where they filmed the movie Groundhog Day. There were 18,000 people and I was freaking Bill Murray. That movie could be about me in many ways, minus, it's a Buddhist movie. And it's really all about getting to that state of escaping and getting to a place from thinking the only way out is through me consciousness, and then wanting to end your life, and then eventually stepping into this servant's heart and we consciousness, and fully being about we consciousness is how he escaped that repeat of every single day. And then at the end, he stays there. Sorry if I ruined this movie, but hopefully by now everybody's seen it. But for me, the escape was like, peace out. And the psychology side of it all has been an interesting piece. And so as somebody who knows internally that I'm here like you to be a bridge, helping people experience heaven on earth, help them get to a place where they can live the life they want the way they want it. I said, all right, I don't want to speak in an echo chamber. Where's going to be an interesting challenge where I can take people who at least are scientifically curious? And so I said, and I connected with Psychology Today, and I've been writing a column for them, which is the title of my book, Total Self-Trust. So I write that column for them as well, which is finding that line of bridging the gap and meeting people where they're at. And to me, the psychology and also even the psychedelic space, it's not about the diagnoses and the labeling and the just deep understanding. It's about the constant exploration of conscious awareness. Yep. And to me, that is so fun and fascinating. And I don't think I'll ever get sick of studying it.
And and there's the left brain, right brain component to that what you just said, the adventure of actually going through conscious exploration, whether it's meditative, breath work. We have a ton of conversations on this podcast rooted around the fun thing that you just said too, like, and the psychedelic world, it's those non-ordinary states of consciousness, which is, to me, probably more ordinary than we think it is, because that is the true we consciousness. When you just evolve into that. That's why I love the Dispenza work and all those other guys. We're all exploring this whole thing that's way beyond our senses, and dropping in and getting into the void is like, I love blending that, for the Westworld brain, it's like, oh, I got to hit you with the science, but now you're going to experience the woo. Right. I don't need to look at the neuroplasticity of psilocybin while I'm under the journey. It's like, oh, now I know what God really meant.
Yes. And in those moments, that, default mode network gets shut down. Yeah. So you aren't thinking, you aren't contemplating, you are fully experiencing it like a roller coaster. And you've got two choices. One is, and then the other is, woo! and you're going to have a little bit of both. And to me, for when I started digging into the study of psychedelics as an example, the person I aligned with the most was Timothy Leary's son, Zach. And so I started studying under him because he added in that third S that his dad and Ram Dass had left out, which is sustainability. There was setting, set being the mindset that you bring to the experience, setting intentions, because I do view that the psychedelics are like as you wish kind of like the Princess Bride, like we're here to help you out. And the setting is everything. There's such a difference between a concert experience and deep inner work experience.
100%.
And then that sustainability is everything. And I think through both, the supplement world, right? I was in that space and manufacturing natural health products. And also in the Western medicine world, so much of it is a Band-Aid approach on both sides, where it's like, just give me something to up this, but I'm not actually going to focus on embodying the best and highest version of myself.
Yeah, well, coming from the lens of allopathic and medicine and pharmacies, like that's why I think you and I have these beautiful connection points, is because we've come from certain places, not because they were wrong, but you've moved beyond. And the word beyond for me is super, it's less inflammatory, because a lot of half of my journey was I learned wellness and I was like, well, pharmacy isn't what it's supposed to be. And then it's just masking the symptoms. So then I went on this anti-pharmacy kick for a while. And then I was un-pharmacy for a while, just getting people off it. And then I was like, no, it's beyond pharmacy. People are really sick. The pill for the ill is what you talked about. It's like, and what drives me mad sometimes is people are developing this same philosophy around sick care and symptom resolution and something on the outside fixing me, that they're even you've seen this too. They're working this angle in psychedelics. Like, oh, just give me the drug and it's going to fix me. And it's like, how about like 3 hell no's? Like, no, like the setting. Oh, let's just get into a sterile environment and throw on some random music and some psychologist is just going to stare at you for 4 hours. Like, no, that's not the job either. I love what you said, sustainability. The word that came to me through that is also integration, right? When we work through the preparation, the journey work, and the integration, you can put mind altering types of stuff like psychedelics in there, but it's still the same process with growth work, with transformation work. There is a preparation. You got to prepare the body, you got to prepare the mind, and you got to prepare the soul for a transition. Then you do the work with them. You're the guide in the journey. We co-create with people. We don't diagnose them. Right. I love that you said that, because that's conversation's been hitting me in lots of places lately, is removing the diagnosis word, right? Diagnosis is just an opinion. Yes. Now we call it, if we don't like and it's a code, you can bill the insurance for sick care. Great.
Right.
But what it does psychology wise, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, because I've had this conversation a lot. When someone gets a diagnosis, and worse yet, they get a bad terminal diagnosis, and they say, you have 6 months to live. Well, 1, they have no freaking idea. And 2, I don't believe in the word diagnosis, because it's an opinion. If you don't believe it, we know the biology of belief. I want to get your thoughts on the psychology side of this, because we know it's a death sentence. We know that the mind's going to trigger into that belief that, oh, he told me 6 months. Now I believe it. And now it's actually going to happen. Science. Mm-hmm. But what if we could just call them opinions? Because guess what happens? When you don't like your diagnosis, what do? You get a second opinion from a doctor. You don't get a second diagnosis. You get a second opinion. But we don't call an opinion on the front end, because the doctor says, I know what's wrong with you. I'm going to write this stuff. I'm not going to prescribe any of that lifestyle stuff we're talking about. But and I don't blame doctors. I'm not trying to be nasty. It's just, I'm having conversations more with folks like you now. That's like, why did we ever stop there? Why do we stop in society? It says, diagnose, treat, repeat. Manage symptoms, don't get any better, just maintain less sickness. Now you and I are so in this space. It's like, no, new healthcare is called well care. It's actually called healing. Let's talk about that.
I love that. So a few points really to double down on here. The first one is beyond. So I'm a big fan of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's very similar to, a spiritual teenager, if you will. Like, I know it all and I'm God and you're all sheep. Like, okay, great. You still have some maturity along your journey to get to a point to realize we're all one. In the healthcare space, two things. One, I've trained as a medicine man through multiple lineages. And guess what? If I'm having a heart attack, I'm not calling a shaman.
No.
I will use the ER and I will say thank you. And if it wasn't for all of those antibiotics, I wouldn't be here on this podcast right now. So thank you, Western medicine. Another one, my daughter got me on this one. Oof, the kids always get us. My daughter's type 1 diabetic at the moment is the way I like to word it. Currently type 1 diabetic. Everyone else is like, she'll always be that. And I'm like, no, we're doing some pretty interesting things that are opening up possibilities. So at the moment, she goes, Dad, what's more important to you? This is at like 12. She's 14 now. Nature or modern medicine? It's like, duh, nature. And I start cutting things off. And she goes, Dad, if it wasn't for synthetic insulin, I'd be dead.
Uh-oh.
Blew up that BS belief system for me, that paradigm. And I was like, there's beauty in everything. And then you can take it one level, which is super deep down the rabbit hole, which is if the entire universe is mental, there's no such thing as synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is mentally created. And this is all perception being reality, which really puts people in a tailspin deep down the rabbit hole. That may be a little bit too much for sure. That's a pretty wild one. But at its core essence, where I think people really miss the boat within all of this is they forget the little kid question of why. Why? Why are you doing all this? And what are you going to do after? Right? So Alan Watts talks about the psychedelic experience, for example, and viewing it as you're looking through the microscope and saying the scientist doesn't stay looking under the microscope when he is done. He comes out and then starts putting the stuff to work. And I think on this healing journey, what is so important with the modern day healthcare is in the moment, I will honor and respect Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that if my cup is not full, I can't possibly be filling another person's cup. So when you're in the deep levels of sickness, it's okay to surrender and wave the white flag and say, help, and we should all be in this together and help one another. But once we then get back onto our feet, then we say, okay, what can I do to optimize so I don't need to experience that again? And that optimizing isn't just what you're doing for your own health. It is what you're doing for the collective ecosystem's health.
I love that. Yes. I love your shamanic reference because when I went through the medicine wheel in my own certification process, when I was learning, I still remember it. Alberto said something. He was like, if I get hit by a truck, I'm going to the ER. I want the doctor to fix me. But I'm going to go to the shaman to understand why I got hit by the truck in the first place.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's so spot on.
I knew you would, because when you said that, I was like, that's it. That's how I teach energy work with people, is like, it's both. So the tiny word "and" has had such a deep meaning for me.
Same. And make that word even tinier, because I went to Necker Island, which is Richard Branson's private island on this trip.
I know many people have done that.
And through Mavericks. And what was really cool is the theme of that trip. They put it on the caps. They had it on the shirt, and it was the ampersand sign. It was and most people think too small. They don't realize that you can have that and life, and also within synergy and harmony of working on any single issue, if you could look at it like a Rubik's Cube and you can look at it like a puzzle, you can realize that all of these things can serve a purpose. It's about how you use them and how you integrate them together.
And getting clear on that why, like you said, right? If you're clear on your why, and the deep why, not just like, why did I wake up today? It's like, no, I went to work. No, like why and what you're doing, what you want in this life. I just throw how and when out the window. I let the attachment to the universe decide how it's going to unfold, but I got to get really clear and focused on why I'm here, what I'm here to do. And that's part of my authenticity and my path to wholeness journey that I went on, that you're aware of as well, is that's the realizations we get to when we get to this deeper existence, this deeper purpose that you and I are both on. You said it. It's not just about putting on your mask first and being full. It's what are you now here to do for others?
Yes.
Absolutely. Right? For the collective, this collective consciousness or just unity of people, because that part is the whole.
So I've got a little tool that people can use for that I think is a really interesting day in, day out perspective.
Oh, good. I love I love giving people things to do on this show. Thank you.
So here's one that I just love. I call it the microscope versus the telescope. So in 25 years of coaching, I've noticed, I went through a whole different realm of people. It was the celebs and the pro athletes. And then I'm like, I want to work with the wealthiest people in the world. And I started redefining what real wealth is, because I realized some of these people who in the 2D, right, their bank accounts, their EBITDA, their business valuation was in the billions. Their actual wealth was impoverished. And I realized a lot of times, because of the extreme me focus of looking through the microscope. And I find when people are too deep into the microscope, they lose their joy and their ability to connect with the real world, is too connected. So they're way too connected to the 3D and freaking out about every little thing. And they've lost the observer. Mm-hmm. So if they can then step back and get that telescope view of what's going on and think a little more collectively, they start to get calm and centered. But the other problem is some people then become way too much the observer and not the participant. They become like me at the 7th grade dance. Me at the 7th grade dance was like this. I was shy. I didn't want to screw anything up. And so I glued to the wall, and my dance move was this. Eyes to the left, eyes to the right. Because if I actually moved my body now, I'm completely disengaged because I'm going to screw something up. So they get so spiritually involved and so on the path involved that they isolate themselves from the human experience. And then they're way too disconnected. And I got to learn that experientially, unfortunately, through my aunt, who really didn't get to connect to the human experience. And she ended up getting type 2 diabetes, losing one leg, then the next, and then her life. And it was a struggle with the human experience and embodiment. So if you can just look at your life and say, hey, what's going on right now? Where am I at with things? And if I'm under distress, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. You're way too deep down the microscope. And if you're hating humanity, society, everything going on right now, zoom in, go connect with other people. We are part of the animal kingdom. We are a communal animal. Go volunteer at a food shelter. Go help someone else and get that law of cause and effect reciprocal relationship. So that's where you learn whether or not, do I need to zoom in or do I need to zoom out?
I love this. It's so fun because I use the same analogy of the microscope and the telescope as it relates to health, right? Mm-hmm. Getting down to the DNA and then getting out into the spiritual side of things. Like, it's just so fun that I love the parallels. That's all.
The DNA to the DMT.
Okay, I got to steal that one now.
Take it, Davey. You got permission right here live, and you have a recording of the permission. So here you go.
I like that. That actually is fun because there's an endogenous component to that and the spiritual component. Where do you want to go? You want to go down the book route?
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting themes behind the concept of total self-trust and the embodiment of total.
Yeah, I want to dive into that. Like, where did this come from?
On this journey, as I was going through this understanding experientially of the different pieces of my self, first off, I started to realize most people had a huge issue with trust externally. With everything that's been going on in the world, economically, politically, society-wise, AI-wise, everything, I said, our biggest dis-ease is trust. And understanding Hermeticism, I realized that at its core essence, self-trust is everything. If you're not trusting the external world, it's because your inner world is chaos. So first off, with self-trust, I looked at self-trust, and the more I started digging into self-trust, I realized the first problem most people have, they don't even know what their self is at all. Not at all. They know the labels that other people get that were given to them. They know the concepts that are coming from their ego, but they don't understand their full self. So I started looking at the different distinctions of the self. One being the different parts of the brain, from, your lizard brain to your monkey mind to your full frontal lobe, and all that through the mental paradigm. And I said, okay, that's great. But when we look at the ego and you get on that spiritually awakened path, we start saying, well, it's my higher self. And I said, okay, well, there's an acronym for ego that Wayne Dyer came up with, which was one of my favorite acronyms, which is Earth Guide Only. And you're not going to kill your Earth Guide. Yeah, he used it initially on some of his TV shows. He didn't keep with it, but I wish he did. And it was the idea of this is your Earth Guide only. So it has its purpose, right? And there was no acronym for the self, for the higher self. And so deep in meditation, the idea of a sacred, empowered, luminous force came. And it's your light being. This is the awareness that sits up top that can see the full playing field for your journey. It's kind of like you as the person who is playing the video game versus the character who is in there. From an indigenous standpoint, because, you were able to come to one of our events, which was awesome, over on indigenous land. And you weren't just a participant, you were a teacher in the moment. It was beautiful. And
I love that place.
It's snake energy down there in the weeds, which is where the ego can be, versus like a hawk energy, which is up above and can see the full field from like that 20, 30,000 foot view with an eagle eye. And for that, I actually ended up getting this, I think, since I've seen you last, a nice little ring.
Is that the Cherokee Diamonds?
Yes, I've got plenty of those here with me. The good drugs, the Cherokee.
I got some here too.
My gosh,
they're right up here.
Yes, I love it. So if somebody's,
they pop up everywhere still. Crazy.
If someone's listening at home, I'll explain to you real quick as a little segue what these little things are here. So
please do. This is a fucking fun story.
Okay. So
it's real. I experienced this, people. This is real stuff.
Okay. So this beautiful medicine woman who's very, how would I word it? She is the real deal. Her name's Soaring Blue Eagle. I got connected with her about 3 years ago and started studying under her really a lot about animal energy. And she has this land called the Land of Two Sands, which is basically this incredible spiritual vortex hidden in plain sight. And fortunately, someone connected Josh and I saying, man, he is totally on the path. He's the perfect person to come and experience this, high level because of not only the depths of work he's done, but because of his open-mindedness. And I'm like, great, because you're going to need an open mind to go to this place, because the first thing that's going to pop through your head, if you're used to luxurious retreats, is like, where's the closest Holiday Inn? But if you are really somebody who's willing to do the work, it's very much like Wakanda, where they have the hidden vibranium. But instead of vibranium, what they have there are these things that are called Cherokee diamonds. And these things within her 3 acres are these incredible crystals, which we don't know exactly where they're from. They could be falling from the UFOs. They could be part of the spiritual enlightened quest of the passing of her husband, who had, indigenous burial on that land, but they only fall on her 3 acres. And universities have come there and said, hey, we want to dig for these because we aren't sure what the heck these things are. And she's like, hey, dumbass, they fall from the sky. And they replicate, they show up. We've walked around the land and picked these things up. And she's like, bring them home. And you start feeling bad. You're like, crap, I just cleared it off. You go inside for a few minutes and eat. You walk back out there and they're there again. Now, this incredible woman has ALS. She's not sprinting around 3 acres planting them like Easter eggs. These things are falling from the sky. It is beyond words, and they are consciousness. And in the shamanic path, I like to look at shamanism through 3 different lenses. One is the animal spirits, and that's the place that she plays the most, which is understanding and studying animals and their consciousness and wisdom. Then there's the plant spirits, which they are, the Amazon, for example, which is so rich in plants. There's all the shamanism, which is around the plants. And then there's the rocks and the crystals, which is usually societies like the Karo, who are way up there in the mountains. And what do you have around you when you're way up there in the mountains? You got a lot of rocks. I'm based in Boulder, Colorado, so I go hiking up there. I'm like, okay, it makes sense that they would tap into the consciousness of the rocks and the crystals that are there. And this is a place where you have a woman who works with animal spirits, who is just like, about the fact that she has the most amazing rock-like spirit consciousness on her land. And such a gift for us.
I gotta put proof of validation here. I have a whole bag of these. So, like, they're literally right here, people. If you can see them.
There you go.
These crystals. So these things are real. They're physical matter. They're random, and they're everywhere on this 3 acres. We went and did a sweat lodge, and we did all the things we needed to do. And I've studied shamanism too, but more on the medicine wheel of the Amazon. So it was really good to hear the wisdom of the animal energies. And I learned that my spirit animal was a cougar.
Yes.
Yes.
Not the type of cougar that chases you down at Whole Foods when he was trying to get almond milk.
But when you think about that cougar energy, isn't it interesting that my college nickname, I can't tell you the story on air, but we'll go off air of how I got this nickname, but my nickname was Bobcat. And when I heard, like, she's just doing the channeling and the things, and, like, we figured out, she's like, you got your cougar energy. I'm like, no freaking way. Like, the full circle moment hit me. It was just like, oh my God, that's Bobcat. And I'm like, dang, man, this is so cool. But these things are real, and they're so real. And I must have brought a whole bag home with me, because every morning we'd show up, there's more out there. And yes, she's not just throwing them out there. And it's crazy. Like, it was just another reason of that surrender we're talking about. We'll go to I got to get to your book. But the surrender was, and you'll appreciate this, and I know you do, is like, part of my journey, part of our journeys that we need to go on in humanity is there's some things your analytical can never explain, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like Cherokee diamonds, synchronicities, being connected to something higher than you, but you can't touch it. Like there's so much of that in this world and in this our existence that I think when I started to, it's like, oh, I only had about half of it. I'm exploring that whole realm now, and it becomes. You talk about being like self trust and being like really aligned with your stuff, and like my programming is called alignment arc because we get you to that space of being truly aligned to you, which is like, if you really think about it, self trust is all about your alignment and your authenticity.
Yes. And here's one of the hardest parts for people. And I've been leaning into this in the last little bit, which is we all have our basic human needs, right? And one of those human needs, especially in a time where you can't trust anyone or anything external, is that need for certainty. And I believe the need for certainty, that most people are looking for love in all the wrong places. And here's where the two polarities that to me need to intersect like the serpent, like they used to. The one side, the Bible is their religious text where they can look and get certainty and benchmark it as Matthew, fill in the numbers, John, this, David, this, like I can get my certainty here from the book. My nervous system can be okay. The book says this. On the science side, it's PubMed. PubMed is their Bible. It needs to be proven through this particular thing. But what they don't understand on the two levels of extremity is the frustration of the religious control is the same as the frustration of the scientific control. And the scientific empire will publish what can still keep people in a situation of economic prosperity for the entity and the groupthink. So then if you have to have your two intermediaries to connect to the divine, which is either the religion or the science, and that science won't call it divine, they'll have a different word for the same dang thing. What can you really do? Well, stop looking without and start looking within.
All right, we're back. That was weird. Tell me what just happened, because you froze. And I was like, what's going on? I think we should just like take this moment to chill, and maybe this is the time we should break.
So here's the way I look at what just happened from, again, having run a virtual business for so many years. I think what happened was when we start talking what we like to call shamany, and we get very spiritually tapped into the truth, the same way that people get spirit bumps, the vibrational resonance of the Zoom technology cannot keep up with the higher levels of frequency of the work you're doing. So I have a lot of times when I have people and I'm taking them through things that I call a quantum catapult breakthrough session, and we're tapping into things like quantum entanglement, quantum jumping, and physics along those lines, where that exact same kind of thing happens, which is modern day technology vibrates at a particular frequency, just like everything else, and it can't keep up with how epic our conversation is, basically.
And the power went out, and you lost the internet.
Dude, the power went out. Everything shut down. My lights went out in the house. It was basically like Mother Nature did a mic drop, confirming the depths of what we just said.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if that resonated with some people, but it's true, because even on this podcast, you explained it to me. I couldn't explain it. We were just talking about things you can't explain and how beautiful they are. Like, I've been on this podcast so many times. I am hardwired in. I got a gig worth of internet going on. And the little ticker up here goes, you're losing your internet connection. You're losing, like, I've slowed things down so many times on this podcast, having these beautiful conversations. And now you just explained it to me why. That's so freaking cool.
The lights above me in this room went out. My power on my laptop and my monitor went out. and everything reset itself. I'm looking outside. I don't see a giant storm or anything. Why does it happen in the moment when you're talking about something that is beyond explanation?
It's synchronicity like 3.0.
That's right. I got a fun story for that, actually. So I'm sitting here. I'm coaching a client that was referred over. We're in session number 1, about to do one of these quantum catapult breakthrough sessions I do with people. And she starts off, she's like, look, I got referred over by my friend. Her life seems totally different and incredible, and she's living her best life. But I'm really skeptical of all this stuff. I'm like, great. Just remember, a lot of times skepticism is just admitting you're afraid, but just be curious. So instead of skeptic, just walk in curious. And I'm starting to explain this to her. And then I said, I'm like, the thing we were talking about specifically in that moment was spirit animals. And I was like, I'm pretty tapped in with lots of different animals, almost like a Disney character where they'll follow me around. And I stopped for a second. I said, look, I know this is our first time chatting right now, and I normally wouldn't do this, and we haven't started anything with hypnosis, but I took my laptop and I said, just look at this. This is freaking me out a little bit, and it's freaking awesome. And I turned it around and she goes, whoa, because sitting right there, looking at us like this, leaning forward, was a hawk, which was the exact animal I was just talking about. I'm like, yeah, when I said they visit me. And so for about 30 minutes, it proceeded to be right there, just looking and staring in. So I popped some pictures, I sent it over to her, and she was just like a little unhinged because it took her certainty away for a minute. So we got her back to centered, but she was also then became a little bit more open to, hey, what's the worst thing I have to lose in this moment? Waste an hour of my time? Well, that's valuable. That's fine. But let's flip that question and say, what's the best thing that could happen if you open yourself up to pretending that maybe, just maybe, you don't know it all, and neither do I. So let's go explore together. The worst thing you're going to have is a good time, right? Like when we're little kids, our biggest goal is to imagine more and think less. We want to go out, travel, see, do, and experience. And for me, you talked about diagnosis and labels. I flip that on its head a little bit and jokingly say, gosh, I would love to be diagnosed with Peter Pan syndrome. Not that I want an actual diagnosis, but
Right.
Last time I checked, adulting is heavy, hard, serious, and kind of sucks. Now, I'm a parent of 2. I am a very responsible parent, and I have reverence, and I do all the things I need to, but I want to be playful, joyful, and childlike for the rest of my life. And for those that start to awaken and step on a spiritual path, I say, zoom out. Look at the most enlightened beings all around the world, some of them who have completely stepped away from Western society. And what do they share in common? They're like little kids.
Oh, their sense of humor is beautiful, and their essence is just, it's playful, right? It's like pixie playful.
Yes.
I love that.
And the psychology is really interesting behind that. There's so much psychology to show our abilities to learn is so much greater when we're in a state of play. So why not become playful? You're going to learn so much more.
Well, and you go out of high beta.
Yep.
And you're into the alpha, and you're getting in the creative mode. This is where flow comes from. This is where, or if you want to talk sports and performance, this is where the zone is. Like that. So yeah, you can't refute the science. And I love capital T truths, because when you say it, you really can't say anything against it. You're like, yeah, when you're more. So I just had written down what was your acronym for self again?
So it is
sacred,
empowered, luminous, right? Your light body, force, your sacred, empowered, luminous force. It is a force to be reckoned with. It is your true essence at its highest self. Now, The other side of that is, as people start going through the spiritual journey of sorts, is kill the ego, kill the ego. And bro, I don't think there is any piece of us that is unintentional or broken in any
No,
one of
it's
our
for a
bodies.
reason.
That's also with our
You got to learn to
body.
be teammates with your ego.
Right. And just because we don't know the reason doesn't mean it's useless. And there's parts of Western society or Western medicine that look at it like the game operation and say, oh, you don't need that appendix. You don't need that gallbladder. You don't need that. Why, in this incredibly precise machine, would we be given extra wasted parts?
Oh, well, we could go down this rabbit hole for days because you talk about epigenetics, right? And getting down to that microscope. I love the science of functional genomics, like the genomics of epigenetics and the signaling of the environment and all that stuff. There's a spiritual aspect of the light part of that, but the concept of junk DNA is so stupid to me. Why in the heck would we have all this DNA for nothing?
Right.
No,
right.
There's zero way. We just don't know yet.
Right. The overwhelming essence that is us, they're telling us is junk. What is that similar to? That to me is very similar to you are born broken as an awful, horrible sinner and spend the rest of your life trying to get to a place of joy.
Oh.
Bro, I don't know about you, but I have never looked at a newborn baby and thought anything besides, wow, look at that. It is
freaking miracle.
The divine I've ever seen, the miracle of almost any animal in the animal kingdom. Actually, I'd say any animal in the animal kingdom. If you watch a newborn or a little video of it, you see a kitten, right? The most popular videos on social media are cat and dog videos.
Puppies, yeah. Why they're so adoptable, because they're so stinking beautiful.
I don't know about you, man, but I look at those little kittens and I'm like, you little sinner. You horrible little sinner.
You horrible person. Look at you. No, that's part of the reason why I tell people I'm highly spiritual but not very religious, because the dogma associated with, Christianity of like you're a bad sinner and you need to avenge that and go to this light side, or you're going to no, God is loving. We all have a choice in world, but we don't need to get into the whole of that.
Right.
But
right.
Your book comes out on 1/11. Mm-hmm. The symbology we talked about of the date, but and there's some sacredness to 1/11, right? But what called you to write it now? Like, why? Why now?
Reason why now is, first off, I had to get to a place of embodying total self-trust. And once I got to that place where I could embody the total part of total self-trust, I felt internally it is my obligation to provide a manual, a map, how others can get there. And what's so beautiful about this map, which I take people through this empower process to get there, from envisioning all the way to rooting and embodying it and integrating it in your body, was this is a map that is not dogma. And it is not like sweatpants. It's not one size fits all. It is a framework that you then fit into your unique life, where you can be like, you know what? For the M, for the masterpiece, okay, I know I need to move my body, but I don't need to do it the way Kyle does. I can do this in a way that brings me joy, which for me, that could be pickleball. I don't know, whatever it is for you. But in each one of these parts of the pathway, it is your journey. And to me, what I think a lot of people forget in any form of transformational work is people will have an experience and they think that needs to be everybody else's experience. Mm-hmm. Not at all. We all have our own unique journey. That's why we are here as fractals of the divine. And within our own unique journey, find it's for me, the O in the process, optimize, is making the conditions work for you. It's like, find your own path towards your own remembrance, towards your own joy and bliss, which is your birthright. And none of you is broken.
And that's the beauty of the talk conversations. This is why I do the podcast, because the path to healing is so personalized.
Yeah.
There isn't like one way to transform yourself through this. It's like there's so many. That's why I love all the people on the show, because one, I become instant friends with them because we're all doing these fun things together, and we're working on collaborating in 26 because we got some powerful things to like double back on. We did the beta test at the Land of Two Sands inorganically. I just showed up to your thing and it was so much fun.
Right.
But so that I love that you said that, because everyone should get this book, because there's a formula, there's a map to it, but the map can go in whatever. It's like the journey. Where do you choose? Like, where do you want to go? Like, your map is there, but then you co-create the journey. So I love that you bring that whole thing back into some level of balancing, because there isn't one way. And I believe there's a formula, right? There's a way and manner in which to move to this space of wholeness, of, this self-trust, this space that we feel good. And I love your fun energy to this. Like, you're goofy with it. I have another friend, my friend PJ, like he's he's got the beard and everything. And I nicknamed him at one of our retreats. I'm like, dude, you're Goofy Jesus. And he's like, so his nickname is literally Goofy Jesus, because he's got the beard, but he's just fun. The energy is like kid and playful. And all the shamans that I've ever met and the healers, they don't take this shit so seriously, even in freaking ceremony. They're laughing, they're having fun. They don't freaking care, because they don't care about your story. They're just going to freaking heal it.
Maybe 15 years ago is my guess. I remember reading the book Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh, which is to me a great starting place for a lot of people, because he's very questioning and, pragmatic going about the journey. But there was a line in there, which was, they're talking about that exact concept of like, wait, as he's going back and forth with the divine, trying to figure out different things, he's like, why are you making a mockery of this? Like, why are you laughing about this? And he says, and God says, who do you think created sense of humor? And if you can't find the humor in all of this, maybe I found that really young in high school, because I did smoke a lot of weed back then as my coping mechanism. But like, I would sit back and laugh and laugh and laugh at things like someone or something, or even if you just want to say it's circumstance, created the giraffe, right? The giraffe looks like 6-year-old Kyle trying to draw a horse. The neck is all elongated. It's all crazy out there. And it's out there doing its thing. Like, the animal kingdom is hilarious. It's funny. And if you can find the humor in those things and stop taking yourself so seriously, life gets good. I'll give you one quick example of when that happened for me. And I think this might help people listening at home. If you're listening right now and you've had anxiety, stress, panic attacks, overwhelm, all that stuff, I was that guy. I would have them at 3 a.m. because I was pushing, I was building, I was doing everything to provide for my family. I had to all be serious, and I'm going to overcome this obstacle. It was like Rocky, right, meets Rambo energy, which serves its point. But too much of that. And I would then, when I let my guard down, AKA go to sleep, I would wake up 1, 2, 3 in the morning in full-blown panic attack. And my wife would have to try to help me get to this state. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I thought back to the days when I'd listened to the Beatles and them doing transcendental meditation. And I started with TM. And it helped tremendously. And I started using those different tools to help with not being a serious person, because most people thought I was disinterested or arrogant, when in reality I was just shy and too stuck in my head and not in my heart. And the other thing that I did that was such a big aha for me was I started watching crap loads of comedy, observational humor. And then I started studying stand-up. And I actually went to Stand-Up Comedy University, led by Pauly Shore's sister, may she rest in peace, Sandy Shore, over at the world famous Comedy Store. And in those moments, I stopped taking myself so seriously. And part of that is that zooming out. And everyone thinks that the spiritual path has to be so darn serious. And it doesn't. It doesn't have to be serious, right? It gets to be sacred. You have to treat it with reverence and respect, but not everything has to be all serious. Nothing in life has to be so serious.
No, I love that. And it needs to have some level of focus, right? When you're in a deep meditative trance or you're working on the subconscious, there's definitely focus. But like you said, it's like you don't need to stay out there for too long because you lose touch. And that's why I like the word balancing. I don't think it's ever in balance. If you think about a balancing board, you're never actually balanced. You're doing something all the time to just,
I love that.
And so I've started to gravitate more towards, hey, yeah, it's a balancing, because you're going to notice yourself out in the ether too much and you disconnect and say, all right, let's reel back into my family. Let's reel back into the ground. That's why in the medicine wheel, we give, not only the reverence to the directions, but, Pachamama and the ground and the earth and the star keepers, And so, right? It's because it's both. It's and. So where's the book? It's coming out on the 11th. Amazon.
Amazon's going to be your best way to grab yourself a copy. We just recorded the audiobook as well. I was really big on making sure that people understood this is a transmission. So even the audiobook is all my voice.
I love that. Amazing. And then you've got rapidharmony.com, right?
Yep, rapidharmony.com. And then on all socials, a great way to connect with me is my full name, Kyle Emanuel Brown.
Oh, and you got the new podcast. We got to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I used to have a radio show on ESPN radio called the Empower Hour, and I'd walk people through their heroes' journeys of celebs and pro athletes, rock stars and rap stars, and bring in experts. And what I decided to do is really lean into, it's been 10 years and, there's a time for me to get back out, from behind the scenes onto the stage of this great play that we're in. And so finding that interesting mix for those high achieving conscious entrepreneurs with big missions and giving them access to, as a go-giver, a network that I planted a lot of seeds for a lot of years, and just opening them up to people that I've got the joy of getting to spend time with. So Josh, when you're in town, baby, we're going to have you hop on in and record some really good stuff and drop in to another round of this beautiful, beautiful banter.
I can't wait, man, because we could probably go on for another hour and 8 minutes and more, because there's so much connection. Like, I love when I'm interviewing people that I just know, love, and trust. We've had a relationship, but we've also have this common knowledge of like truths that we've gone through our own journey. And what's so cool about that energetic exchange and like entanglement is you literally say the words I've been saying, and I'm like, in your way. And it's like telescope, microscope, like, and this, I'm going to drop you with this. I have my own version of self. And it goes along with, and I've been saying it in a different context, not from a self-trust space in the self. And I can't wait to dive into your real book. I have the download, but I love the real books. Is my definition of self-care is simple, easy, lucrative, and fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Because lucrative to me isn't about money anymore. It's about the abundance of love and life and awe. I could put awe in there, but it doesn't have an L in it. So That's mine. And then because what have we been talking about with laughter is fun. Like, you got to keep life fun. So, dude, this was awesome. I don't know how many mic drops we had, but there was a few. There was a literal one. The universe, let's pause, gone.
Full electric kaboom.
So good, my brother. Go check him out, rapidharmony.com. Go grab his book. It's coming out. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to spread that out for everybody. Congratulations, man. Like, you're doing some super cool things. I cannot wait to get back on an episode where we're going to be integrating both of our stuff together and bringing people up. We're already just talking about like ridiculous retreat, not like mini retreat. We're going all in. So I'm excited to bring that to the equation and to the realities that we're in.
Go big or go home, and sometimes going big means going somewhere amazing. So let's do it.
All right. Woo! Well, that's a wrap. Thank you, my brother.
Bro, that was fun.
This is fun. Until next time, everybody, stay well. Thanks for joining me today on Beyond the Pills. If our mission to de-prescribe 10 million unnecessary medications resonates with you, share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review. Whether you're a practitioner or someone ready to reclaim your health, visit rx2wellness.com for free resources to begin your journey. Together, let's go beyond the pills and co-create a world of vibrant health and true healing. Until next time, live better and stay well.